Our Wednesday finance session, and today we are going to have a presentation from our good friends at CADIC about what they're up to. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our guests.
All right. Thanks for having us in. As always, we just put together a very brief PowerPoint presentation just to get you up to speed on what we're working on as an organization. So to start off, again, this is our mission and vision that was created as a result of the board retreat that we held last April. So this is the first mission and vision that we've had as CADIC as one unit, tourism promotion, and then also economic development. Next one is our 2014 something new that we've started to track in 2014 with Valerie's help and our marketing folks. We've honed in on 4 key areas that we use as a comparison to see what other EDCs are doing throughout the Mid-Atlantic region of the country. Just to back up, just so you know what we're benchmarking against in these 4 areas. Number one, the data comes from the Mid-Atlantic region. Population, so they also take a look at the population size of a particular county. So we fall in the 250,000 range as far as population. The size of the economic development group, so we fall within that 4 to 9 staff member type of range. And then last but not least, also budget. So just taking a look at the economic development budget of the overall CADIC budget, it falls within the $500,000 to $750,000 range. So they collect all that data from comparable economic development groups, and that's what we're benchmarked against. And we take a look at this on an annual basis. So I'll just go right down the line here very quickly. Website visits. As you will see, it has 3 categories. It will give my community, average, and then the median. You'll see that here in Cumberland, based on our economic development website, we had about 8,267 hits to that website. You'll see that the average for a comparable economic development group is about 26,910. So we see that as a great opportunity there. I know we've come in the past and have talked about that we're redoing our website, we're investing in our website. Once we launch our new website, which hopefully we'll do in the next couple of months, we'll be able to get some quick traction to get those numbers up. And after speaking with our marketing department, they think we can do so pretty quickly once we have a more robust website.
You got to keep up with the county. We just redesigned ours. It's going to be launched very soon. So you have to keep up with the Joneses.
The next one is conversations. So this is another benchmark. The thought process is the more conversations you have with potential people moving into the county, with businesses that are already here, the more activity that you'll be able to generate as economic development preparation. So you'll see that in 2014 we had 646 conversations. The average was 131, and the median is 82. So I think this is really a testament to staff and how much we're active in the community, speaking with businesses that potentially are looking to come into the marketplace. So something that we're very proud of. The next one is jobs. How many jobs are being created? In 2014, CADIC assisted with the creation of 2,106 jobs. You'll see that the average for a similar EDC is 1,044, the median is 530. Is that 590? I'm sorry. So again, that's another area that we've done fairly well in over the last couple of years. Recent announcements of ThreadUp, Georgia Pacific, some of the projects that we were involved in, and the jobs that those efforts are creating is how we got to that number. And last but not least is capital investment. So this is another area that a lot of EDCs across the nation focus in on. And that's how much capital investment are you attracting into your market. So that could be new business, that could be existing business that is looking to expand, and what's the dollar amount for that. So 2014, we were at $161 million in what we were able to attract here into the area. And you'll see that the average for a like organization was 231,774, and the median was 92 million. So we're kind of right in between those two other comparables there as far as the average and the median. And again, a lot of that fluctuates from just how, when projects end up landing and just the timing of it all. I think in the previous year, we were well above 260 million in total capital investment. So again, I think this just shows, kind of at a snapshot, all the work that we do on a daily basis. A lot of it comes back to the ROI of website visits, conversations, jobs, and of course investment. CADIC core services. So this is something that internally as staff is something that we put together again now with our rebranding as kind of being under one unit, economic development and tourism. So at the top, destination marketing. That's really the strength of our organization. So that is to the leisure community, but that's also to the business traveler, also to the business community. So that's a big piece of what we do. Business and government advocacy. One of the main reasons that we're here is to really support and advocate for business growth, business development on behalf of the business community, and also be that direct connect or link between the business community and government, whether it's local government, county government, state government, federal government. So we serve that role there. And then lastly, funding solutions. So typically we meet with businesses, whether they're looking to come into the area or they're already here, and typically there's some type of funding need. That could be in the form of grants, that could be in the form of infrastructure financing, it could be in the form of small business financing. Whatever that need is, our job is to help them come up with a solution. And that's something that we spend a lot of time on as well. Our focus areas, creating and retaining sustainable jobs. That's something that we're committed to and we'll continually focus on. Creating new capital investment. Again, that could be equipment purchases, that could be acquisitions of land, it could be construction of land, it could be a whole host of things, renovations. Workforce development, skilled gap training, and connecting education and industry. In the last year, we've heard a lot about this, especially talking to a lot of our trades folks, that there's an enormous gap in between the jobs that are available and the folks that are coming out of our both tech schools, out of our high schools, out of our colleges and universities. So we're really going to make a concerted effort this year, and I'm sure for years to come, moving forward on workforce development. Working with our South Central Workforce Investment Board, working with the state's Workforce Investment Board, working with PA CareerLink and all the other folks that are in the workforce development arena. So it's something that we're really going to spend a lot of time on in 2015.
How about our institutions of higher education and also the tech school?
One of the things that we have slated for hopefully later this first quarter is we've gone out and met with all but one of the colleges and universities. We still have Harrisburg University to meet with here shortly to try to draw interest in seeing if we can start to have regularly scheduled meetings with the business and industry folks, just so that they're in the room, speaking, so we understand from the trades perspective what their needs are and how does that fit into the educational world. We also have met and we're starting to meet with a lot of our superintendents to have that same conversation with them as well. And it's something that really came as a result of a lot of the public sessions and the meetings that we had a few months ago that I think the three of you participated at and attended, to where that need really kind of came to light. So it's something that we've seen a lot of interest in from all parties, and something that's needed. So we definitely want to make sure that we're inclusive of all. And then the last one here is visitor growth. So that's focusing on the leisure traveler, focusing on the business traveler, then also small meetings, group tour, and youth sports. So those are the areas of focus within the visitor growth section that we're going to focus on in 2015. Our core goals. First core goal up there is increasing CADIC's brand awareness. And a lot of that is done by Valerie and her team with several marketing campaigns that we do. Increase awareness of Cumberland Valley. So again, that goes back to a lot of our marketing campaigns and making people aware of Cumberland Valley and what we have to offer. And then the third one is support visitor experience and business development. So those are the things that we're going to focus on for 2015 as far as our goals. And strategies. So goal number one, increase CADIC brand awareness. Strategy there, target audience, Cumberland Valley businesses, organizations, and attractions. Strategies to market and support our loan and grant programs and other CADIC services. And that can be done through advertising, website, PR, social media campaigns, and business retention. So that's a lot of just one-on-one conversations that we have with people on a daily basis. Connect with target audiences. We've started a town immersion program where we as staff all go out and we get familiar with a certain downtown community, better understand what's happening in that community, and also let them know what services that we have to offer them. CADIC events, promotional campaigns that support our businesses. One of the things that we're launching this year for the first time is a Business of the Week, which I think the first one is set to come out this week. Where we will feature a business and really speak to maybe a manager or the owner of the business, and just gives them the platform to really spotlight what they do and what they do well in the community. So that's something that we're excited about. And then also the Best in the Valley, which we've been doing for a while. And then also sponsorships and then roundtables. Roundtables is something that we want to continually do a lot more of. They seem to be picking up a lot more traction. I think actually Shireen emailed you, three of you today about the military roundtable that we're hosting at AHAB in another week or so. Increase awareness of Cumberland Valley, so target audience is national site selectors. So site selectors are the folks that work on behalf of companies that are looking to expand, relocate, maybe they're looking at downsize, but through that downsize, they're looking at other potential locations. So we really want to start to target those folks, let them know what we have here to offer. Business location decision makers, and so sometimes they're companies directly that have the internal capacity to be able to make those site selection decisions. So we want to make sure we stay in front of them. Then more on the leisure side, national and drive market leisure and business travelers. So those are really our target audiences when it comes to marketing the destination. Strategy is to market and sell a positive image of Cumberland Valley. Then you'll see the whole host of ways that we plan to do that for 2015. Goal number 3, support visitor experience and business development. So here are target audiences: residents, visitors, businesses, and government. Strategies, produce marketing collateral. So that could be the rack cards, the maps, the visitor's guide, the ag guide, the Sentinel travel supplement. Monitor and support visitor centers and visitors. And that could be our visitor centers that we have here throughout the county, and then also group tours as well. Support tourism and business development. So that could be gateway signage. It could be having a presence in places of business, asset town experience development. And you see the rest that we have listed there as well. And then also at the bottom there, distribute collateral into strategic locations and feeder markets. So understanding who are our feeder markets and making sure that we strategically have collateral there to hopefully get them to come here to Cumberland Valley. Our 2015 business development priorities. So these are some of the projects that we have listed here through our Cumberland Valley Alliance. We got feedback from some of our stakeholders as far as what were some of the major projects that they thought CADIC should be focused on for 2015. So the South Middleton Connector Road project, which is a project that we've been working on for the last year or so. The Summerdale development in East Pennsboro Township. The Carlisle Urban Redevelopment Plan here in the borough, the 3 brownfield sites. Continuing our efforts with the Newville Trailtown development, which is picking up a lot of steam. We're currently in the process of looking at getting some funding for some signage there in town, so things are really picking up there. exit 29. There is a lot of industrial development down that way, and we have some exit restraints at the moment. So, having a continued focus on there with infrastructure, water, sewer, bridge, widening, and those type of things. And then also here, just outside of town, which may be a great potential redevelopment site, is Hotel Carlisle, which is currently on the market to be sold. Initiatives, continuing with the Cumberland, New York Area Local Defense Group. So again, that's really supporting our 3 military installations here in Cumberland Valley. Workforce development. So again, that's one of the top initiatives that we're focused in on. Destination sales feasibility study. So we've had in the past a lot of destination marketing type of studies done that gives us that insight as far as where we should be placing our resources, our efforts, understand visitor commuting patterns and folks that are looking to come into the area. This will really tackle kind of more of the relationship side of things. So, what particular group tour operators, come through Cumberland Valley, taking a look at, we know we're a small meetings market, so having a better understanding of what particular associations we should be trying to go after to get them to have their next conference or association meeting here in Cumberland Valley, or even the sports market. We're starting to see that industry really just boom. I mean, you're seeing a lot of youth sports. You're seeing youth sports complexes going up across the country, and this is a really great area for youth sports. And we think that there's some real opportunity there. We're a little short on the asset side when it comes to youth sports as far as fields and complexes and facilities. But we're working with some folks to see if we can get that investment to come here in Cumberland Valley. So that's something that we're excited about. And last but not least, infrastructure. This has to be a priority for us. With our major highway systems, infrastructure is key. Rail is key to be able to attract light manufacturing, light industrial type of work. Rail becomes extremely important. Our road system becomes extremely important. There's been talks about widening 81 to 6 lanes down to the Maryland border. I think that's going to be a heavy push, but I think it's something that we need to start having some dialogue around. That would be extremely important. Actually, we had a guy from the I81 Corridor Coalition. He came up to our Highway to Growth event that we had last April. Myself and my counterpart in Franklin County had a chance to speak with him a couple of days after, and he showed us a lot of statistics on the growth of 81, the traffic on 81, and how that's going to double by, I think, 2025. So it's something that I think that we need to all have on our radar moving forward. Legislative priorities, we want to continue to monitor statewide hotel tax reform, reduction in corporate net income tax. We're still one of the highest in the country, which puts us at a disadvantage when you're looking at attracting business here to the region. Continued investment in infrastructure capital through state programs, base realignment and closure, or BRAC, reconfiguration of state programs. So a lot of the state programs, financing programs, are now under one umbrella. We think that there needs to be some changes and modifications to how that process currently works. So that's something that we're keeping an eye on. Of course, the I81 Corridor and connectivity to I76, making sure that, if there's a way that, and that one may be a little bit more of a wish list, but I think it's something that we need to continue to press on. Having the advantage of having those two road systems here is something that is definitely to our advantage. And one of the things that's been a priority for quite some time is if there's any way of getting a slip ramp off of the turnpike. One of the things that we have recently learned is that the turnpike is working on some construction projects and redoing a lot of the turnpike, which is coming this way. So if there's a way that we can tap into that as that type of construction and those type of efforts move forward this way, that if we could get that added in, I think it would be a plus for the borough, but then also for the local region as well.
If you get 81 and 76 to hook up, could you also ask them to do a 70 and 76 hook up? So you don't have to go through that reason. Hold your breath.
We gotta get ours done first.
And in mind.
So with that said, I'll pass it over to Valerie, who will talk a little bit more about some of our marketing priorities. Not sure if you have any questions for me, but no, I'll pass it over.
Before I get started, I wanted to mention the roundtable that Jonathan was speaking of. The military roundtable is next Wednesday at 8 o'clock at USA Tech. We have the top 3 leaders from our 3 installations attending, and they'll be on the panel talking about the economic impacts they have in the community. So it's going to be really great. So starting with our 2 main objectives are to increase visitor growth and to increase business growth. And one of the ways that we can do that is through advertising. So advertising to leisure and business travelers. When we're talking about business travelers, we're talking about people that are coming to this area, but we want to let them know about all the wonderful things that they can do while they're here for business so that they can come back again for a leisure trip. We're looking at people that are interested in history, passionate about history, passionate about outdoor recreation, fly fishing, biking, hiking, and the arts. And we're looking at the 5-hour drive market and also expanding into the Mid-Atlantic region to our fly markets. For the business growth piece, we're looking at 2 audiences. Our internal Cumberland Valley businesses, where we're going to advertise our KDIG services and loan programs. And then also the second audience is the national audience, where we'll be reaching site selectors, business owners, decision makers that are looking to move their business, to let them know about Cumberland Valley as a place to conduct business or to move their business. Another piece of our strategy is content marketing. I really love this quote that traditional marketing, which is advertising, direct mail, talks at people, and content marketing talks with them. Today, with the web, if you want to have presence on the web, it's really important that you have really thoughtful content that's valuable and relevant to the audience. And to do that, some of the things that we've done, Jonathan touched briefly on the Found It in Cumberland Valley Spotlight. What that is each one of our staff members are assigned a town, and we're going into the towns, meeting with the businesses, talking to them about the things that are going on, the things that are new, so that we can come back and write content that our consumers want to hear about that's relevant to what they're looking for. And then, sorry, that was the increased outreach. The Found It in Cumberland Valley Spotlight is what we're doing that Jonathan had talked about on a weekly basis. We have 2 tracks. One is for the tourism businesses, and the second track is for the economic development businesses. So every week we'll have a new story, a new business spotlight for the tourism business, and then we also will have every week a spotlight for the economic development business and or spotlighting a site that we want to highlight. Some of our other marketing priorities, John talked about our economic development site. I'm really excited about it. It should be at the end of first quarter, it should be live. One of the new features that it will have is a site selection tool. So any of the sites that are available within Cumberland Valley will be able to be put on the site selection tool so that site selectors and developers can go on there and find the site that they're looking for. We'll be focusing on niche marketing campaigns, really looking at our fly fishing, fall fun, and our biking adventures that we have, and creating some campaigns that are both online and in print collateral. We're conducting a consumer perception study. A consumer perception study looks at the behaviors and perceptions of travelers, and we consumers, we purchase things with our heart, and so understanding why someone is purchasing something is going to help us to be more strategic with our marketing and communication plans. Jonathan already touched on the sales market segment study. We'll be producing a new visitor's guide, a new map, and a new ag guide, which all of those should be out by summer. And then in coordination with our advertising plan, we'll be going into Philadelphia for some West Side visits to try and capture some earned media. And with that, I will hand it over to Shereen. Thank you.
So as you're aware, we have been conducting our first, I would say, fully integrated strategic plan that is still underway. We kicked it off in September with some task force meetings where we invited different industry sectors to come in and talk to us about what they felt the priorities were for the county. And that input has been synthesized into the start of some strategic focus areas that we're working with through a committee process, which includes our chamber members, a member from the Cumberland County Redevelopment Authority, and some of our board members. We had a study commissioned by Penn State that did an economic assessment for the county. So that's there. We are in the process of going back to Penn State to ask for some added-on work for some pieces of data that are missing. And as a result of reading the study, the results, we've determined it's prompted some questions, probably more questions than answers.
It was distributed last night through the Conservation District.
Oh, it was?
Well, Ag Extension, we received copies of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're using that as the basis for our, understanding the economic base that we're working from in order to be able to project the future growth trends that we should be planning for. Ultimately, this study process, this planning process, will feed the county's comprehensive plan, which will have, that's our hope, will have a much more robust focus on what is economic development, what is good, sustainable economic development for the county, and where we want to see ourselves in 10, 15, 20, 30 years. How do we manage our growth and keep our tax burden reasonable. So we're in that process. We've got more study to do, more planning to do, but in the meantime, as a result of the strategic focus areas that have come out of this study process, we have defined it, that sort of is the baseline for everything that has been outlined here thus far, with what are our business development priorities, what are our marketing priorities, and I'm presenting what are our internal priorities as an organization that's tasked with providing economic development services for this county. What are we working on internally that the public may not see, but that will make us a stronger organization? So part of that is defining what is the balanced approach to economic development. So that will be something that we are focused on. How much business attraction, how much business retention. You can say you're going to go after all the business attraction you want, but you can't support it. Maybe that's not a good thing. So we've got to figure out that balance, and that is what we will be focused on this year, is understanding that. Diversifying our funding sources and expanding our financial base. We are about 88% of our budget is relying on hotel tax, which is fabulous. However, to do more work and to support the county in a better way, we need to have other additional sources of funding. So last year we rolled out our Alliance program, which is in essence a membership program intended to raise money for specific purposes, i.e. to market this county from a business perspective, and also to put those funds, to earmark them for actual business programs that would go directly back out to the business. We're always looking for enhanced public funding. Part of our strategy last year was to bring on a government relations firm, which is very, very instrumental in our successes that we achieved last year in 2014. So last year was a baseline year, wasn't even a full year. March, April, I think we started with right in the midst of budget season. And now with changes in leadership at state government, we'll need to get through that window. But, we want to be positioned to increase our chances to receive public funding, whether it's directly to our organization to put in the programs, or whether it's directly for the benefit of our business base and our communities here. Fee-based services, it's really only recently in the past year and a half since Jonathan's been with us that we are looking strategically at how do we charge for some of the services that we provide. In past years, sometimes we did a lot of work for little gain financially to us as an organization and also to the county. So we're looking to change that paradigm a little and where we can charge for services. We're learning that businesses are willing to pay for services where they're reasonable charges. We are beginning to do that. And there's always fundraising and looking for grants and opportunities to fund programs that other agencies might be willing to do. Asset allocation and strategic investments is something that it's been on our radar for a little while. We really haven't been in a position to focus on it, but in 2015 it will be a focus area, and that is to set some policy and guidelines around, if our budget is X, how much of this budget should be saved and reinvested into programs that are ongoing. For example, our revolving loan programs, those were just good decisions made years ago by our predecessors, where loan programs were established, and we are now receiving income off those loan repayments and those interest earnings year over year over year. We're able to put that money back into the community. So those are things that we need to look at as to how do we find ways, ways that we've already done or new ways that we haven't thought about to take the limited funds that we have and to invest them in such a way that we're able to ensure sustainability for this organization. Comprehensive communication with our communities and stakeholders has always been a priority. I think we do a really good job communicating with our communities. This year's initiative, the Town Bridging Program, where it's feet on the street. Every staff member has a section of town, and they're out there and they're talking to our small and medium-sized businesses. And Jonathan and his staff is out talking to the corporations. So it's a real full head-on, making those connections to our municipalities, to our nonprofits, to our community organizations, as well as our business owners and residents. And sound planning practices and policy procedure refinements. We're in good position. We're always making improvements on setting policy and developing procedures as we are growing. We are, in 2015, we'll be 10 years old as an organization. Come a long way in 10 years. And we have a lot for a nonprofit of our size. We have a lot of infrastructure that in my opinion, is very solid. But it is still within our scope of work in the future to focus on continuing to refine policies and procedures so that to ensure that we're staying relevant to our marketplace and that we're competitive and we're operating within sound principles. Our core values, this is something that came out of our strategic planning process at the April meeting, and I just thought I would put it up there. These are not new. These are values I think we have always been operating under, but we've never really seen it on a piece of paper. And staff has these now plastered on their bulletin boards and in their workspaces, and it's something that we use daily in our decision making. When we're talking about a great idea or a new thing, or should we do this, should we not do this, at its foundation are these core values that are driving that decision making. So, we do everything in a partner-centric model. We choose not to do anything by ourselves because we're not big enough, or we don't have the resources to be able to do that. So we work in concert with all of our forms of government, from local, up to state and federal, if needed. We work with our residential community, our community groups, our nonprofits, agencies of record, and certainly our business community, both on the tourism side and on the business side. Accountable, we strive to be accountable and results driven, and we operate with integrity. We're innovative, we pride ourselves on our creativity and our progressiveness and our innovativeness. In my short time with the company, as I compare our method of operandum as compared to sister agencies, whether it's standalone tourism agencies or standalone ED agencies, we're at kind of a different breed. I think we're a special breed. We look at things in a holistic way. And part of that, I think, is attributed to the way we're organized and the way we were created and we came to be. I think, we can't forget the history of what got us to where we are today. I think those tenets are still very much a part of our practice and our decision making. And education, nothing happens without education. And education daily, we are a marketing agency who's tasked with marketing this county and this region for business growth and visitor growth. We want people to come here and spend their money here and invest here. We want jobs here. And we want our educated citizens to stay here and work here. So education is a key component to our communication strategy. That it's always our challenge to make sure that our population, whether it's our business base, our residential base, our taxpayer base, that they understand why we're here and what is the value of being here. What does that mean? So, and lastly, just some key save the dates besides the roundtable next week. We have roundtables every month, second Wednesday of every month. They flip between a breakfast session and a noontime session to get different audiences, and they're topical, they're themed, to achieve a certain audience segment's interest. But annually, we have a Highway to Growth series, which in essence is an education series, and is intended to take a topic that's complex, may or may not be controversial, usually controversial, and we try to assemble a panel of experts that can discuss the topic. So it's a way to bring people together to dissect an issue, to inform on an issue. Our next one will be on April 29th. We held it at US AHAC. We're still working on the details of the program, but the working title is Art of the Deal. We're still researching to see if we can use those words. It might have been taken, so we have to come up with another name, but we're excited about that program. It'll be an evening event. Then our annual golf tournament is a fundraiser. It started out as a method of fundraising, but really it is more than a golf event. It is a networking event. It's a place where people come out to do business. So it's founded on the green. It will be held at the Cumberland Country Club. This will be our second year at the Country Club this year on September 14th. Shotgun start at noon. And then our annual tourism conference, November 4th, and we're still finalizing the program there. Working topic, the theme this year is going to be the art of storytelling and the importance of history. So there'll be a focus on our heritage and history and how to tell stories in a relevant way. As Valerie alluded to with content marketing, it's not what the story is, it's how you're telling it to make sure that it's being received to invoke that buying signal. You want people to be excited enough about it to want to buy it and want to try. So that's what we have coming up. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your support of the strategic planning process. I was amazed and very thankful that you all three attended all three task force sessions in September. I know that was not easy. It was a long period of time and commitment of your busy schedules. So I thank you for that. We learned a lot from it, and it is our intent, once we know a little more clearly what the next steps are, once we go through one more round with Penn State, get a little more data under our belt, we will be re-engaging those audiences back with us to continue the dialogue. So I anticipate this will be a continuous process. This is not a once and done, we're doing a plan, we're going to have a plan, we're going to have a nice little binder that says county has a comprehensive plan. It's going to be a working document that will be a living document that we will be using as our guide as we develop our scope of work each year and for the future.
Can I just add one more thing? The chart, the benchmark chart that Jonathan showed you in the beginning, I just want to make clear that that is just for the economic development side and cumberlandbusiness.com. It's not reflective of our visitcumberlandvalley.com or the visitor tourism side. So just to keep that in mind.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have the same method, like, we haven't
The
developed that
benchmarks for tourism are different, and we didn't show that here. We can certainly bring that to you.
I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you an
We'll provide
example,
it.
like our, just doing an annual visitation, unique visits for our visitor, visitcumberland.com, it is 330,000, 360,000 a year compared to 9,000. But that's because we've been spending the last 7 years really focused on that visitcumberlandvalley.com and promoting it and really building it up. So we've done nothing for the cumberlandbusiness.com because we haven't marketed it, promoted it, or done anything with it. But now that we are going to be focused on it, I'm really excited about how much it's going to grow.
People have questions, comments?
I do. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing and has been done, but you mentioned something that it sounded a little bit different. You talked about kind of like a living document or something. And one of the things that I thought was going to come out of this strategic planning process was where we were going to more clearly delineate in our county's comprehensive plan, essentially this county's, economic development
Absolutely.
policy going forward.
That's what
So
the expectation
I
is.
understand we're going back to Penn State, we're getting more data and whatever, and I assume, although he's not here today, and I know Kirk's up to his eyeballs in a lot of things, but bottom line is that I thought we were looking at February, March right now, perhaps, considering a broad outline, if you will, of
To have a comprehensive plan for the
to
county?
work toward the development of the comprehensive plan. I think that's how it was presented initially.
Okay.
Okay. So now I understand Penn State, we're going back to Penn State, we're going to get some more information, all that. My question is, you said about a living document. One of the things I think that is important for us as a board is to get into some of that, the meat and potatoes of, and I think that's what Kirk Stoner, our director of planning, had said, that we need to kind of like fill out, if you will, our county's economic development
Right.
policy.
Right.
So
Right
I'm wondering
now,
like where that stands in terms of when will we see some
that would be
proposals?
a Kirk Stoner question.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I don't know whether we're waiting. for
But we are working
waiting
very
to-
closely with them. I believe that we are waiting to go through another round of communications with Penn State. We need more data. We need some clarification. And that will then give us a clearer view of what the expected timeline might be. When we started this process in last spring, really late last spring, we took a break over the summer because we felt it would be difficult to bring stakeholders in over the summer months, which is why the task forces were scheduled for September. We believed the study would be in our hands well before the task forces met, because that would have changed the way we ran those meetings, frankly. That study came in shortly after we met in September, and so we had to alter and change gears onto how we approach the project. So if February was the date that you were given to have a finished comp plan,
I think that
my
you-
opinion is that probably was not realistic.
Okay, well, that's fine. I would like an idea though, and maybe we could, touch base with Kirk at the appropriate time, get an idea on that, because I think that's very important to, the discussion with respect to, the governance structure, whether there's going to be any reforms in the governance structure and so forth. Address a lot of the questions I think that have been asked
Right.
of us at the CADIC board meetings.
Yeah.
It starts with this board establishing that kind of like outline and filling in some of the blanks where we don't have any meat on the bones right
Absolutely.
now.
And when I referred to living document, I didn't mean the comprehensive plan. but once we have a comprehensive plan, we will have a living document, it's a working document that's telling us what we should be doing to meet the objectives of the comprehensive plan. And that will be something that will be adaptive to market changes, market conditions.
If I could just add to that also, to your point of the February, March timeframe, that I do remember that being discussed early on with Kirk. I think what happened when Penn State came back with that first bit of information was there was a lot more questions that we didn't feel as though we had enough to properly assess or come to any type of analysis that we would be able to put together that would be effective for us moving forward. So I think that's where some of the delay is now coming in, is going back to Penn State, as Shireen alluded to, and getting some more answers to some of the questions that we have.
Just a quick question for clarification. When you talk about the Penn State study, so I was in the presentation where the Penn State folks came, they gave us a whole lot of stuff, and Commissioner Burstein was there as well. Is that the Penn State
Yes.
study? Okay, so my follow-up question is, what is it that's missing? What is it, and I don't expect the detailed inventory here, but in general, what is it that you're waiting for? I mean, their presentation is pretty comprehensive. Not that it covered everything, not that it didn't engender questions, but there were certain things that to me were real obvious. But on the other hand, I'm just curious to know what you think is still, what we're waiting for.
One of the areas was a workforce analysis. That was not, it just wasn't part of the scope. I don't know if we didn't ask for it or they didn't know to do it. So that's something that we're interested in getting.
Land use analysis.
Land use analysis is another one. Beyond that, I think you were there, Larry, when I asked the question. There were more questions than answers. We got data, we got summaries, we got trends. And I think I asked the question, what does this mean? What should we be focused on?
Do you think that Penn State's going to tell us what it means? Or
I
we're going to tell us what it means?
I think they can help us interpret the data with more intelligence if we continue the dialogue and we provide them with our institutional knowledge of the county. We know the inner workings of what's happening and why we think things are happening or what's not happening. And if we can provide them with that kind of information that they don't know about, they're not Cumberland County residents or workers, they can apply that to the data and help us make a more complete interpretation.
I think some of the things that we saw last night, of course, was, in the document that I received, was where in fact we are overweighted in certain areas and underweighted in others. So whether that is healthcare, and that is manufacturing, or that is transportation and warehousing. Now they have their specific sort of urban-looking categories.
Right.
So tailoring those could be one thing that, going back to them, they could do. But there are areas where we are far overweighted and others that we are not. So a 1 is sort of that perfect score, and we could be holding, a 2.9 in an area, where in others we're at a 0.6. So, I mean, that was what was presented as said at, Ag Extension last night. So.
The best example, one of the reasons why I think more information is needed, is if you look at manufacturing. I think we were down like 21% in manufacturing over a period of time. And Penn State didn't have the local knowledge of of understanding why that is. So we explained to them that we lost some manufacturing in the borough, we lost some manufacturing in other places. So when you look at it from a business attraction perspective, can we gain some of that manufacturing back? And I think some of the analysis that's still yet to be determined is, when you talk about a workforce analysis or a land use analysis, is do we have the land? Do we have land that has rail? Do we have a workforce that can support bringing back light manufacturing? And I think those are some of the other elements that will help us. I don't think we're looking for Penn State to make the decision for us to say, okay, Cumberland County, here's what you should be doing. But providing us with more, supportive information to be able to make those decisions and come to those conclusions is, I think, what we would like. And it's something that Shireen and I and Kirk and a few members of our planning committee thought would be important, is to go back before we just pie in the sky, say, yep, let's just go back after that industry. Let's make sure that, we've done our homework enough to make sure that we should be going in that direction.
Well, that's it, whether or not you manufacture the same thing that you did 10 years ago.
Correct.
You could be manufacturing something for the future
Future,
as
yes.
opposed to what it was. It is still manufacturing something.
On the first, at least the briefing I was at, where we had the first blush glance at the Penn State data, there were actually quite a number of things that raised a lot of questions that were contradictory numbers and such. So I guess that was part of the impetus for going back and asking for them to take another look. And have we accomplished that portion of it? If we have new data back, do we have ways of validating it? Are we sure that the data we're looking at is good this time? And that we're filling in the blanks of some of these contradictions.
I think they answered some of the questions when we met with them, the meeting that Commissioner Hertzler and Larry attended. We got some answers on some of that information, especially in the comparables. So when they were comparing Cumberland County to state and national trends, there were some industries that we all kind of raised our eyebrow about and said, well, wow, we thought we were actually doing fairly well in that industry. Healthcare is a great example. Our healthcare growth was, if I remember correctly, was below the state and national levels, yet we're seeing that here as a growing trend. So I think we were able to get some answers on that. I know we went back and, we talked about maybe doing a comparable to another county that's similar to Cumberland, so that we had something to base it on. So those are some of the ideas or questions that were still out there.
The question I have is really more specifically, we had things that were actually contradictory in the first blush of it. So to me and I think the question was raised, is Penn State the best source for this data? Do they have the access to the right information? And we talked about alternative sources of information. Apparently Mary has some data that she works with on a regular basis. Scott Eric, I was going to bring up in a minute, from M&T Bank, who spoke with the Carlisle Chamber Economic Forecast, had mentioned some other data that they have available you may be able to access. So I guess my question is, the source data, are we confident that our source data is the kind of data we can build plans on?
I think so. We think Penn State can get the job done. I think we just need to ask them some more questions and have more dialogue. But I think they can get it done.
Well, the aspect on healthcare is certainly pharmaceutical, their distribution or manufacturing. Okay, and what also came up was whether or not you want to benchmark against counties that are to the east of us or sitting out in Westmoreland. And so the controversy was whether it's Adams or Perry. My argument was simply that's where the workforce is coming from. I mean, nobody's driving from, I don't believe, Westmoreland coming in here to work. So if you look at training workforce, what is a reasonable drive for someone to come into Cumberland to work? Hopefully then to move and establish a home here. But, it was, well, how can we possibly take these numbers from Adams, or how can we take these numbers from Perry? But when you look at the ag industry, the growing is called the Cumberland Valley. So you look at, small parcels, you look at, sort of that boutique growing, this is the land we've got. So comparing things need to be absolutely within that scope of what that industry is.
I just want to say, I want to focus in on your comment of getting the job done, okay? Because I really do think this is a situation, that's what, we can study and analyze for the next several years. But the bottom line is, what I remember were things that came up, floated up to the top, were things like workforce development, or things like reuse and redevelopment of vacant sites, business sites. Some of the things that, they were kind of things that stuck out with me. And we can take data and you can analyze data forever. But it's kind of like, I'd like to get to the point of where we are in a position to establish, a broad economic development policy for the county with some meat on the bones, and that's kind of what we're at this point. So we move forward. One thing another thing, and I'll direct this to you, Jonathan, is I think a while back you had indicated that with respect to our new website, that new website is going to contain information and inventory vacant, retail, commercial, industrial properties throughout the county, which I believe if we can do that, I think you indicated that. So I'm going to ask you first, is that part of the website redesign? Is that going to be?
It is, Valerie touched on it a little bit with the site selection tool, and that's the mechanism that we'll be able to utilize to be able to do that. Part of it though, Jim, is that we also need the support of the brokers, of the landowners to be able to give us that information so that we can get it on the site.
Right.
So one of the things that we want to do as we roll out and launch this website is to, probably through some type of marketing strategy to be able to reach those folks, to get them to see value in the site, to want to use the site to get the information uploaded. At that point, we can highlight, specific sites that we want to highlight as we see as a site that, is high on our radar. We have the ability to do that, and we'll have the ability to have a certain level of demographic information that goes along with that site as well. But the key is going to be to get the private sector developers, brokers, realtors to use it. Because we don't have the staff capacity to sit there and to upload it all and manage it.
That's one of the things that I've focused on, trying to provide some resources to lax budget. But this is an area where I think that, actually our municipalities can also be of tremendous assistance to CADIC.
Correct.
They know where the empty properties are and what's open and what, and I think so we, you might want to also ask them, and I agree that, we need to have cooperation and buy-in by the commercial realtors, in the area. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, even though we didn't move forward with my suggestion in the budget this year, have you had any further conversations with Ben Loudermilk on this subject at all? Because I really do think it needs to be, a cooperative effort. You're our county's economic development agency, okay, along with our tourist promotion agency. So if you got a business from outside, they're likely going to pick up the phone and going to get in touch with you if they're interested in locating in Cumberland County or expanding. And this is where, having that inventory comes in. But it's also going to be important to work with the redevelopment authority on this as well.
Shereen and I did have a meeting with Ben, probably several weeks ago, a month or two ago, around the topic. We have not spoke about it since that point, and I would say that was probably early December when we last spoke to him.
Well, I do think it's going to be important going forward, and I'm going to continue to advocate for some kind of an effort to incentivize the reuse of existing, unused vacant retail, commercial, industrial properties in the county. I think it's going to be really important to our county in the future. And along those lines, I hope you keep that on the radar. It was one of the things, again, that floated to the top when we had those initial, strategic sessions. And that's kind of like what the strategic planning, I believe strategic planning is, we can't be all things to all people, all right? So we need to pick out like 5 areas and focus in, and this is where we can make a difference. But we do have to have a plan. Thank you.
John, I mentioned Carl Chamber there a while ago. I know you were there. Scott did a few presentations. And his presentations were always very interesting and much more comprehensive than most of the other things that we get to see. So, and he outlined, especially the last year activity, talking about some of the findings of formational business activity as the economy continues to recover. Also mentioned specifically about the slower than average job creation rate in the county. And he gave us a pretty comprehensive overview. Is there anything noteworthy out of his presentation that you think carries forward into, whether it's something you've already heard or something that may have surprised you? And Shereen, I guess this goes for you. I don't know if you were there.
I wasn't.
Okay. Was there anything noteworthy out of that presentation?
Sure. We actually worked with Scott. He actually did a similar presentation two or three weeks before at our Alliance quarterly meeting. So myself and Mary on our staff, we meet with Scott on a quarterly basis. A lot of the information, a lot of the site information that Mary has alluded to as we've gone through this process of where she knows, a lot of that we get from Scott. You know, the job growth, and basically he walks away with two things if you really bring everything up to a high level. Yes, our job growth is slower than the state and national average, but we also did not get hit as hard as some of the other areas statewide, nationally, as far as
But our
the
job
recession.
growth is also a lot slower than our population growth, which is incontrovertible. I mean,
Correct.
It's irrefutable.
Yeah.
That's a
Isn't it
fact.
also Harrisburg and Carlisle, right? It's the Harrisburg Carlisle team.
But he broke it down to Cumberland County as well. He started at national, then he went to state, then he went to the Harrisburg, Carlisle, MSA, and then he actually had data at the last meeting that was more Cumberland County focused. So he did even hone in a little bit more. But yeah, job growth is definitely not growing at the rate statewide, and then you just alluded to, Larry, it doesn't match up against what we're seeing from a population perspective. So those are areas of maybe concern. You know, we have seen industrial development come back. We're starting to see residential development come back. And usually once you get industrial growth first and you start to get retail growth, which is also driving residential growth because retail is all based on households, we're starting to see that come back. The industry or the sector that we haven't seen come back yet is office. So we're right at that cusp of, we're starting to see residential and we're starting to see retail. So if you follow past, we should be starting to see office come back. And, you know, talking to some office landowners, they are starting to see occupancy start to increase a little bit. So I think, you know, once we start to see office come back, we should start to see our job growth numbers come back, because we do have a lot of vacant office.
To banking and lending.
Yes.
So unless you have that full circle
That
of
full
banking
circle.
and lending, you're at a stalemate.
Yeah, because our office is down. Our office market is significantly down. And it's throughout the region. I mean, you look at the city of Harrisburg, I mean, they have a lot of office space that's not being occupied. We have a lot of office space that's not being occupied. So until we see that come back, our job growth numbers are going to continue to suffer.
Anything else, folks? Just want to thank you all for coming. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.